Let's get more on the market with Bob McNally. He's founder and president of Rapidan Energy Group. He joins us live today from Newmarket, Maryland. Hadley also joining the conversation from Jerusalem. Bob, I want to begin by getting your reaction to this New York Times report, which says, according to senior administration officials, that there is an understanding on both sides, this is between the Saudis and the Americans, that the Saudis will ramp up oil output once the current OPEC deal expires in September. I'm not buying it. What's your view?
I'm not buying it either. Good morning to you, Dan. I checked with my friends in the administration, and they said particularly the amount of oil under discussion or reported in that New York Times article, 1.25 million barrels a day of a hike, is way too high. I don't think there's going to be a guaranteed production increase either. What I do agree with on the New York Times, though, it said that there's unlikely to be an announcement this week of a production hike, right? So I think everyone agrees on that. I think later this year, if the market tightens up, especially as that EU embargo on Russia goes into place, I think the White House expects, really hopes, that Saudi Arabia and UAE would use some of its remaining spare production capacity. They have about 1.7 million barrels a day. I don't think they're going to want to use all of that. I think it's a number well below 1.25, but nothing should be announced this week, I expect.
So, Bob, what is at stake domestically, politically, if President Biden comes home from the region empty-handed with no oil production deal, especially when we have inflation now tracking at 9.1% in the United States? He's under significant pressure here to at least deliver something.
Well, so the president has to hope and pray that gasoline prices keep falling in the United States. They're down about 8% from their high. They had ticked over $5 a gallon, now about $4.60 a gallon. So the president sort of dismissed the high inflation number today, saying, look, it hasn't caught up with the recent price drop in gasoline. So he's got to hope and pray that gasoline prices keep falling. If they do, then the pressure will ease up and no one will really remember whether he got a concession or not this week from Saudi Arabia. He can say, after all, that last month he reached an understanding with Saudi Arabia and UAE to accelerate the tapering. So the UAE, Saudi Arabia, OPEC Plus did agree to accelerate the tapering to speed up the supply increases. Prices have been falling since then. If that continues, the president can point to that and say, I made progress.
Now, Bob, it's Hadley in Jerusalem. You know, I would only take issue with that in this way, which is you say nobody's going to remember. Nobody will remember maybe ahead of the midterms. But I got to tell you, people in this part of the world remember. And they have been watching what has been happening over the last couple of years coming out of Washington. They went from an agreement essentially behind the scenes with Donald Trump where he could literally pick up the hotline to Riyadh, pick up the hotline, frankly, to Moscow and talk oil prices with President Putin and talk oil prices with the king and with the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, to a situation today where Joe Biden, unfortunately, seems to have literally no relationship with the king and with the crown prince. And as you know, that is absolutely essential, not just for the security of the region, but also for oil prices and what happens next in the oil markets. They are the de facto leader of OPEC. I want to ask you about a podcast that my friend Andrew Perosoliti over at Al Monitor had recently with Martin Indyk. His numbers are under dispute, but this was another element of that conversation that I found really interesting. He seemed to suggest that come September, when the production agreement is over between OPEC and Russia, the OPEC Plus agreement that we talk about so much, that relationship with Russia would come to an end as well. And when I checked this with Saudi officials at the highest levels, I got a lot of laughter. What's your take on that? How is there so many mixed messages at this point?
I couldn't agree with you more, Hadley. No question. Minister Abdulaziz from Saudi Arabia went to the Petersburg Economic Group. They've made very clear privately and publicly they're not going to kick Russia off the bus. They are very close to Russia and they want to stay close to Russia for many reasons, including market management. Look, I don't know Martin Indyk, and I don't know why he was saying those things and so forth on the numbers and what you just reported. But I think there's some folks in the U.S. government would love nothing more for Saudi Arabia to kick Russia off the bus as soon as this agreement's over, come back into alliance with the U.S., not only on oil, but on Russia and other things. That's not going to happen. Saudi Arabia, the most important thing for Saudi Arabia, in my view, is keeping oil prices stable. And to do that, it has to manage supply. And it had to drag Russia kicking and screaming into OPEC Plus, as we all know, in 2015 and then again in 2020. They don't want to have to go through that again. So I think they're going to remain very tight with Russia. And I think it's wishful thinking on the part of some folks over maybe in Washington about a breakup.